welcome to you as we move into Experience 14 of the series Experience Living Purposefully into Your Very Own Story. Series 2 is made up of experiences 11 to 20, and each one of these is some aspect of how our very own stories interweave. And the particular aspect for Experience 14 is about inner self-awareness wipeout. Let us pause. Sit comfortably on your chair. Leave all else's distraction as you let your inner being reveal to you what would make your life ideal right now. What do other parts of your inner landscape have to say about the reality of this dream, desire, or reality? Hold all that has been revealed gently and note any feelings you have about the whole or any particular point. When the time is right for you, let your awareness return to the energy in the room. And I'm inviting you to take one more moment to ask yourself, how was that for me? Perhaps a word, phrase, sense, or image emerges. And perhaps you'd like to make a note of this. And I make a little note. You have just engaged your observer self. In Experience 13, we talked about this mountain. In the foreground, it's a metaphor for the build-up of residue of each of my inner experiences, which are stored in the well of sensory memory. Preference, desire, choice, feelings. Feelings which, when repeated, becomes pattern of behaviour that are how each person survives in their outer world stance. Now today we're going to deal with the mountain in the background. And I'm naming this mountain in the background the build-up of what happens in our private self for every shovelful of experience that came to make the first mountain of the outer world stance. An illustration through story. So this is a 10-year-old story, part 3. This 10-year-old solution to the problem of getting help was to go to the young married couple next door. They set us, the 2 children, up with hot cocoa and biscuits before leaving on their motorbike, their only form of transport, to get help. As the young woman went out the door to ride pillion on the bike, I, the 10-year-old and older of the 2 children, remember thinking to myself, she's afraid and I'm not. I also remember that I sat up straight when we were alone and I felt like a queen. I still remember these details very clearly after all these years. So we have a private self, and I am calling that part which goes into the awareness, in the case of this 10-year-old, that she was afraid. She said she wasn't, but she really was. It was in unawareness. And also, she didn't realise that she'd taken on board a queenly energy, felt like a queen. Well, have a little bit more to say about those 2 inner self-awareness wipeouts in a short while. So here are some more facts about survival strategies. For every action choice in our conscious outer world stance, there are feeling reactions and other potential consequences in our private self arena that are at first unconscious. For this 10-year-old, at first they were unconscious. It was much, much later that these memories were recalled with the consequences that were attached to them. These at first unconscious effects I call inner self-awareness wipeouts. So here we have the two mountains, a survival strategy and an outer world stance, a private self arena and an inner self-awareness wiping out happening. A few more facts. As I've said before, and I'm repeating it, for every action or choice in our conscious outer world stance, there are feeling reactions and other potential consequences in our private self arena that are at first unconscious. And these at first unconscious effects I am calling inner self-awareness wipeouts. And in this 10-year-old's case, a spontaneous self-preservation strategy at unconscious level had two prongs: denial of fear and inner self-awareness wipeout. And a compensating effect, a compensating expansion of a sense of feeling grown up. There's time for you now to let surface one or more past stories where detail of behaviour and feeling reactions are as vivid now as when they happened. This is how it was in a 10-year-old story, parts 1, 2 and 3. And perhaps you'd like to speak or write what surfaces. So I have these three things in this mountain: survival strategy, outer world stance, private self, inner self-awareness wipeout. And I'm following up the 10 examples we had in experience 13 with adding the extra line for inner self-awareness wipeout. So, solved a problem at 10, went into action when anything that wasn't liked came into being, and the inner self-awareness wipeout is did not play. This child liked the responsibility and took that on board without integrating play. The woman who did not kick in the womb gave up her freedom to be herself. Her inner self-awareness wipeout was that she had the right to live freely. The one who sensed that she wasn't wanted from the womb and made herself indispensable, her inner self-awareness wipeout was that it was appropriate to integrate who she was into how she served others. The woman who was separated at birth and was enjoying joy now, not waiting for it, what went back into the inner self-awareness wipeout was the grounding sense of safety that we all have if you don't start off life with feeling abandoned. The woman whose mother died at 4, whose strategy was to love and trust big animals, her inner self-awareness wipeout was that people can be trusted. The girl who was sexually abused by her father from 4 to 16 years and coped with that by taking that use and abuse was acceptable. What went into wipeout mode was that she could expect respect. For those who experience constant negative sayings where they eventually take on board that that is how they are and act so, the part that gets wiped out is there is a truth that they are not so, either of no use or never get anything done or stupid or whatever the negative is. There is an inner truth which is there but not in their awareness. The person who failed an exam at 17 and was harshly self-critical, her inner self-awareness wipeout is that life's a series of ups and downs. She'd had an experience of all ups and then a big down came and she was devastated. But for most of us, there's an integration of ups and downs at a better level than happened as a result of the shock for her when she failed an exam. And the last of my examples is for the person who is living a role and then their whole attention goes on concentrating on others' needs. The inner self-awareness wipeout was an awareness that they have needs too. Now, I've used 10 different examples. These examples were unique to each of those persons. And every person has a unique experience of these 4 aspects of living, which I have named thus. In other contexts, the same energies and patterns are described with different words. So that's why I'm leaving time for you so that you can look at, and it mightn't come today, but you can get an opportunity to let surface what is your particular flavour of each one of these 4 aspects of inner experience. how does this inner self-awareness wipeout come into awareness? Well, they're generally named only after a fairly strong or very strong pattern of behaviour in the form of a survival strategy has emerged, but not only emerged, gone into overdrive. That is, it's reached its use-by date. Not the whole lot, just the part that isn't necessary anymore, because life is not threatening in the way it was perceived in the earlier time. All the time. So, naming and owning inner self-awareness wipeout realities happens after considerable reflection time. And I have offered some opportunities during this interaction. And naming and owning inner self-awareness wipeout realities is a significant step to becoming whole and or moving forward in inner journeying. There's time for you now to let surface one or more of the consequences in your private self that underpin one of your patterns of behaviour or survival strategies as you interacted with an imperfect world. And parts 2 and 3 of a 10-year-old story name some possibilities. And perhaps speak or write what surfaces for you in this quiet time. Summary. For every action choice in our conscious outer world stance, there are feeling reactions and other potential consequences in our private self arena stored in our well of sensory memory, and these are at first unconscious. And my name for these effects is inner self-awareness wipeouts. In the mantra, God of the Gentle Breeze, Monica Brown in the CD A Heart's Journey has succinctly and beautifully captured the gentle tone and caring love of more than elements, which she names as God, which underpin all inner self-awareness wipeouts. God of the Gentle Breeze, passing over all the storm and fear, leaving peaceful calm and presence here, God of the Gentle Breeze.
Leaving peaceful calm and presence here, God of the Gentle Breeze.
God of the gentle breeze.
God of the gentle breeze.
Has experience 14 expanded your awareness of inner self-awareness wipeouts, feeling reactions, other potential consequences in your private self arena? Perhaps speak or write what surfaces. There is a strategy to increase awareness of feeling reactions and other potential consequences in our private self arena. Gift yourself with 7 to 10 minutes at the end of the day, allowing deeper realities of one or more of your actions or choices of the day to surface. Gently notice and receive them. Perhaps speak or write them. The next morning, gift yourself with soaking in any particular piece of information, feeling reaction and or consequence of an outer world stance choice that you noticed in your private self arena the night before. Experience 11 was of layers of feeling reactions in my very own stories that are stored. Experience 12 of how a first pattern of feeling reactions is repeated and becomes a survival strategy to cope with an imperfect world. Experience 13 of how survival strategies impinge on life and living. Experience 14 of inner self-awareness wipeouts, feeling reactions in my private self arena that are at first unconscious. So, would you like to discover what underpins inner self-awareness wipeouts? Detail in Experience 14. Thank you so much for sharing Experience 14.